good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in truly across the continent today for another exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants episode. I think there's quite a few of you that are new today, so welcome in. If you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And you're catching us on such an exciting day because we are kicking off near the end of the year. This is our sixth last program. That's hard to say. We just wrapped up 30 amazing shows last week for World Oceans Week and Canadian Environment Week. You can catch all those and this one on our YouTube channel. So much more to explore and discover there. But a big thank you to all our classrooms. If you've joined us all year long, a huge thank you. If you're new to us, we hope you'll join us for next school year. We do over 400 of these every single year, featuring the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. Now, just a while back, we had Abbey Dias on, and she came on to talk to us about really cool diving experiences she had, and she was so charismatic and fantastic that we just had to bring her back in our final 2 weeks of the year. So Abby's going to join us today to talk about how to become an underwater explorer. I know you kids might want to get out and explore yourself someday. Maybe you're exploring already in grade 1, 2, 3. That is awesome. When I was a kid, I grew up in a place where there was no real ocean, no real water to go on. So I always dreamed of having the chance to go and explore the deep sea, the coast, kelp forests, and more. And we have no better guide than Abby to show us a little bit about what that world is like. So without further ado, buckle up. We're going to dive in literally and figuratively with Abby. Thank you so much for joining today, classes. And Abby, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Jesse, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is so exciting to have you, and I know you've got a lot to share and like the most beautiful pictures ever, including this giant starfish thing going on. So take us away. We'd love to hear more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is one of my favorite sea creatures ever. It's called the sunflower sea star, and I think we might find one on our dive that we're going to go on later today. So stay tuned, and let's talk about scuba diving. So as Jesse said, I'm Abby. I am a professional scuba diver, which I think is pretty cool. So I want to know, have you ever dreamed of scuba diving? I know Jesse said that he dreamed of scuba diving, and I definitely did.
Well, let's ask our classes. Miss Ross, do you guys want to go scuba diving?
Yeah!
Excellent. 2, 3 threes. I know your mic's muted, but what about you? What do we think? Scuba diving? Yes? No? What do we think? Yes?
Yeah.
Hey, there's the mic. Welcome in, guys. Yes, we have a whole bunch of yeses, Abby. Everyone's dreaming of going underwater.
Yes, everyone's dreaming. The thing is, I thought that scuba diving was only going to be a dream. I thought it was just something that, I could think about and dream of, but never thought that I would actually be able to do it. But I'm going to show you how you actually can. So when you get old enough, when you make enough money, when you learn how to swim really well, you could become a scuba diver if you want to also. So let's talk about how I got into scuba diving, and maybe you'll think about how you could someday get into scuba diving too. So this is me as a kid. I always loved the ocean so much. And here's me with a sea star. I have always loved sea stars. I don't recommend picking up sea stars like I did in this photo, but I was a kid back then, so I didn't know any better. But here is me now, and this is what I get to do underwater. So like I said, I am a professional scuba diver. So what does that mean? It means I'm a scientist, I'm a photographer, I am a scuba instructor. I'm also a diving safety officer. And so I get to help students, much like yourselves, but a little bit older in college, learn how to conduct research underwater safely. But through all of these different hats that I get to wear, I am an underwater explorer. And I want to show you some of the really cool things I get to see underwater. So here's one of my favorite scenes underwater. This is a kelp forest, and I'm swimming with a little school of fish. And you can see the kelp forest. It's really like a forest that you see on land. When you're hiking maybe through the redwoods or through the Douglas firs or whatever trees you have around you. The light, it's really soft inside the forest, and it's really beautiful, and it feels cozy and kind of sheltered. And that's very much what I think of a kelp forest like. Some other places I've been include Antarctica, all the way at the bottom of the globe. And so some days this is what my office looks like. Other days you can see behind me, this is what my office looks like. So both offices are cool, but this one's especially neat. We had to break the ice on top of the dive hole every day before we got in the water. So here's what it looked like underwater in Antarctica. This was in a lake. and I was looking at these mats, these microbes, these little bacteria that are everywhere around us, but they're living in this super cool form in these underwater lakes in Antarctica. So just some of the really cool things that I've got to see. The kelp forest, they're right here in my backyard, but Antarctica, super far away. So there's plenty of things to explore all around you. But my career as a scientific diver and professional scuba diver did not happen overnight. So I worked really hard growing up and had a lot of interests and a lot of different hobbies. So first I started off thinking I wanted to go into medicine. I wanted to be a doctor at first. And so I volunteered in the hospital and I took a lot of first aid classes to try that out. I played lots of sports. I worked in a restaurant serving pizza, and I did all of these things. But then I learned how to scuba dive. And then I started thinking, I really like being underwater and studying the marine environment. But I couldn't dive much, so I tried out doing some research on deep sea fishes. And that was just an opportunity I got, and it was so cool, and I learned so much. But then I was just hungry to do more work underwater. So after getting my initial scuba certification, I think I look super silly and young here in this picture, but that was my first day scuba diving with my best friend. Then I was just totally hooked and eventually became this sort of professional scientific diver who gets to wear a helmet underwater, and that's from Antarctica. So lots of different routes and things I was doing in order to get here, but all throughout this, I was working at least 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs between waitressing and tutoring for school. And then I started cleaning boats when I learned how to dive. And so had to work really hard to get here. But now I have a really cool job working at the University of California, Davis as a scientific diver and diving safety officer. And so when I talk about safety, I think some people think, oh, safety means rules, but I want to know, what does safety mean to you? And these are some photos of what I was thinking about safety. And so you can see we've got a rock climber, and a rock climber here has a rope that's helping him climb, and it's there for safety. But he's able to do this epic climb because he's got that safety rope. And then we've got a mountain biker down there. Mountain biker's wearing a helmet and knee pads. And to me, that looks like safety, but she's doing some epic ramps and things and just going really hard, really far, but she's being safe. And then we've got some skydivers down in the corner. Do you think of skydiving and safety as the same thing? I do, because for skydiving, you've got a parachute that helps you be safe so that you can land. And really the idea here is that being safe in our adventures really just allows us so that we can continue adventuring and doing it all over again. And so I try and keep that in mind throughout all my work, is that safety means I'm able to have fun. Check out this person on the moon. That whole white suit that they're wearing, that's for safety so that they can breathe in outer space. And then of course we've got our scuba divers. They're working together as buddies. They've got air tanks on their back. That's all safety. And so to me, this is what safety looks like. And this is what allows us to be able to explore. So I also want to know, why do we explore? Jesse, do you have any feelings as to why you like exploring?
I love exploring, but I like new places. I grew up with all these people inspiring me too, and people like you on TV and movies and going to all these incredible places around the world. And I've always found that getting to go to those places in person is so much more impactful and amazing. It really changes me. It changes how I view the world than anything else. So that's why I explore, for new experiences, new cultures, new wildlife. That really gets me. Anyone who wants to chime in the chat too, live classes, YouTube classes, we can go to Ms. Barala's class first. Why would you explore, if anyone wants to chime in? We think.
Why do we explore? To learn new things.
New things, learn new things. That's a very good reason. It's why we do things at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We always like to learn new things here. Anyone else who wants to chime in? That might be a good place to start. Abby, tell us more about why you explore.
Yes. Well, I love exploring for all of those reasons. Also, it's a really fun time to go out with your friends and meet new people. And I like exploring because I get to do science. I get to learn things, whether that's scientific things, or I get to learn things about myself when I get to go explore, and what challenges me and what excites me. And then I like exploring and then teaching other people about what I find, which is exactly what I'm doing today, teaching you about what I get to do as an explorer. And I think also exploring helps us take care of our planet too, because it helps us understand our planet, it helps us care about it, and then share what we know. And I think in turn, that helps us be really good stewards and care for the planet. So just think about that when you go out exploring. Why do you enjoy it so much? But for ocean exploration, there's so many different ways to explore. And so I want to touch on a few of those because mostly we're going to be talking about scuba diving today, but not everyone can scuba dive and there's tons of other ways you can explore it. So one common way is just by swimming or snorkeling. And so if you feel comfortable in the water and you want to give it a try, this is my friend Marco. He's free diving. And so he doesn't have a lot of gear, but he is highly trained and he's able to go down, hold his breath and look at fish. And you can do this from the surface with a little snorkel in your mouth. And you can just look at what's below you. And that's a super awesome way to explore the ocean. Swimming, free diving, snorkeling, all of that. Also boat rides too. If you're on a boat, that's another great way to get out on the ocean or in your local lakes, anything like that. And there's some really cool technology out there too, where we can explore the ocean through robots. So this is an ROV that I got to dive with in Antarctica. So I took this picture underwater with the ROV and we were trying to work together as a scuba diver and a robot to try and collect science. And that was really cool. But robots are especially cool when you can't go down there yourself. So if we think about the deep sea and the very deep Hadal trenches, how do we explore those places when humans can't go there? Well, robots are a totally great way. So just want to get you thinking, there's lots of other ways you can explore the ocean if you can't get directly in it. But let's talk about scuba diving and let's go diving. I want to take you for a dive. I'm going to take you through some of the steps that I take with my friends and what I teach so that we can learn how to be underwater explorers, underwater scuba divers in the safest and most fun way. So first of all, we always want to grab a buddy. Like I said, love exploring because I get to go with my friends. And so some of my best friends are my dive buddies and my best dive buddies at that. And I used to train with kids. And so they were like, when you're 10 years old, you can start thinking about getting scuba certified. And so these kiddos are 10, 11, 12. And then this guy on the right, he's, I think, 18. So all different ages of scuba divers, all different backgrounds. And so those are my buddies. And then with our buddies, we get our gear. And so there's lots of gear that you need to carry with you as a scuba diver. And you have to be super strong because look at all this stuff that my friend Elise, one of my favorite buddies, has to wear. So she's got a hood on because it can be cold sometimes. This photo was taken in Washington State, where I'm from, and the water can be super cold. It can be like 44 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter. That's freezing. So she wears a hood. She also wears a mask so she can see underwater. And then a snorkel, like I was saying. Even if you're planning to go scuba diving, sometimes we still bring a snorkel with us for safety reasons. You know, in case we have to snorkel out and just breathe on the surface, we can have that. Also gloves, because when it is super cold, you want to be able to move your hands. And so gloves are super important. And then a regulator. This is one of my favorite pieces of equipment. And I actually brought one to show you today. And this is what my regulator looks like. Here we go. It's got all these hoses on it. Actually, one of these we even call an octopus because it looks like there's so many different hoses and tentacles on it. But you basically attach this to your tank and then you breathe through it like this. And that supplies you with air. So we've got our main regulator that connects then to our tank that's on our back. And then we wear exposure suits. So in this picture, Elise is wearing a dry suit. And that's really cool because it keeps her dry underwater. And so she basically gets to wear like pajamas under this dry suit. She goes underwater, gets totally wet on the outside, and then comes out and she's totally dry. It's like the craziest thing, but it's super cool for when you're diving in cold conditions. And then Elise is wearing a BCD. That's what we call our buoyancy compensation device or buoyancy control device. And that allows Elise to be neutrally buoyant underwater. So basically, she doesn't have to move a lot. She just gets to float, kind of like zero gravity. And that's why a lot of people like diving, is because it feels so cool. All right, then she's got her octopus. And so that's this big yellow line. And that's like a backup air source for you or your buddy. And so if somebody runs out of air underwater, which we always try and prevent, we have a safety mechanism as a backup that I can give my buddy to breathe. We've got a compass for underwater navigation because you got to know where you're going so that you can come back out and come out where you started, right? And then we've got a pressure gauge too to know how much pressure is in our tank. And that pressure is going to correspond to how much air we have to breathe. So that's super helpful. Whoopsies. Let's get back. Here we go.
Something should mess up in every video call, otherwise it's not interesting. So we're back. We're good.
Regulator is all over the place. It's got a mind of its own, and that's why we call it an octopus. Okay, so we got compasses and pressure gauges, right? Okay, and then a light, because sometimes it can be dark underwater and we want to be able to see. So these are most of the things. And then finally, fins. That's what you put on your feet so that you can kick, and it helps you get some more momentum behind your kick so you can swim better. So all of these pieces of gear, you need that to be a scuba diver. They're all for safety. They're all for comfort. And that's why sometimes it takes a while to work up to being a scuba diver, because eventually you do have to buy these things and they can be really expensive. So just keep that in mind. If you want to be a scuba diver, it's best to try and save up some money before you start that adventure, just because there's a lot of things you need to think about. But with that said, once we get all our gear ready, we're going to make our plan with our buddies. So some things that we want to think about. This is really good for any adventure that you're going on, whether it's scuba diving or, taking a hike or taking a walk. Who are you going to go with? Who's involved? What are you going to be doing on your hike or your dive? When are you going to go? Are you going to go right now? And also, when are you going to be back? When can your parents or your grandmas or your friends, anybody, when can they expect you to be back, just so they know you're safe? Where are you going to go? What's your exact course that you're planning on taking? Maybe what compass headings do you need for underwater? And then why are you doing what you're doing? Are you going to just explore? Are you going to take photos? Are you going to collect science? These are all super important things to communicate with your buddy beforehand, just so you make sure you're on the same page. Okay, another thing to think about beforehand when you're making your plan is communication. How are you going to talk to your buddy underwater? Now, scuba diving is unique because you're underwater and you can't talk. And so you have to communicate with your buddy, but you can't talk like I'm talking to you right now. So we use hand signals underwater. And so you've maybe seen people do the okay sign, and that's what Elise and Santi are doing in this photo. They're giving me an okay, saying we're ready to go. We could also do like a thumbs up. That'll show us, okay, I'm ready to go up, or a thumbs down. I'm ready to go down. Things like that, so that we can communicate underwater and know what each other's talking about. All right, next up, once we have our plan and our gear and our buddies, we're going to do our buddy check and give a final okay. So we're going to check each other to make sure that all of our gear is in the right place. We know how to work each other's gear in case the other person needs help. And then we decide, you know what? I think we're ready to go. We have all our equipment. Let's go. So here we go. Jesse, I've got a joke for you.
Okay, I'm in.
All right. I'm going to play this video. This is how we get into the water.
Okay.
Whoop. There he goes. So, Jesse, I want to know, why do scuba divers roll backwards out of a boat?
Oh, I don't know. Why do they? Did it freeze right when you're about to tell me the joke? The internet does not want this punchline. No way. That's a new one. Oh, that's funny. Abby, I think that there's too much bandwidth for our video together. We want to get that back going, and then we'll get you back. That is so funny. Well, folks, we're going to have Abby back in a second. I'll put her in the background as we get her queued back up. Oh, there we go. Half the joke. I'm waiting on the edge of my seat as well. And once we have her back, we're going to be diving with Q&A fairly soon too. Our YouTube classes, you guys have been sharing some great questions. So Miss Madigan, Miss Koss, please do feel free to share there. Anyone else who's joining live, let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to catch you and get your questions in a minute. In our 233 and Miss Barajas class, stick around. Abby's gone for a sec, but she's going to come back and tell us the second half of the joke on how to be an underwater explorer. I'm going to say something really quick for our classes because I think it's really important. I don't think we've touched upon it. A lot of people, when I was a kid, when I was your age, I thought you had to be much older to be a scuba diver. And do you know how old you have to be? 10. When you're 10 years old, you can get the same certification that I have and become an open water diver. So Just a quick note for our classes. You can get to become a scuba diver very, very early. Abby, you're back. Welcome in. So hilarious. Oh, we're half back. We want to be back. You were good for a second there. Sorry for the delay, folks. Apologies for this. Oh, maybe. Abby, I think we're good.
Hey,
We're
Jesse.
back. You played the video, and you told me the joke. I said, what was it? And that's when you died. So I figured it's the internet not wanting us to hear the punchline. But if you want to get us back in with our video.
I think my joke broke the computer. It was so funny.
It's too funny. We can't even feature it on YouTube. It's crazy.
I know. Sorry.
Let's see. Abby, I'll just quickly note, and for our classes, we are going to get back to this hopefully in the next few seconds. Abby, if you've got other tabs open or anything else and it's eaten into the bandwidth quite a bit, maybe we'll just go straight to Q&A if we can get you back and it's proper. I think we might be good. And if there's anything else you really did want to show us outside of that video, we can check in on that. I think we might be good.
I think we're good now. Yeah.
Good. Cool.
We're okay.
Are there any other pictures that you want to share and anything else? I think the video is a little too much for us, but if you want to highlight things.
I've got a couple of photos if you want to go. We could just kind of quickly go through a couple of the photos I had to see.
Bring them up, and then we'll dive into their classes. That would be perfect.
Okay, great. Jesse, did you get the punchline of the joke? Did you
hear it? No, what was it? Tell me more. Did you freeze again as you're about to tell me the punchline? That's hilarious. Kids, I think, you know what? I might need to get Abby to tell us the punchline after. I wish I was planning this. This is just uproariously funny at this point that she's tried to tell the punchline 3 times and it's cut her out every single time. So, once we get her back, we're going to try and get this going for the next minute or so. Worst case scenario, we'll end there. And what I'll do is I'll take all your questions for Abby about everything that she's been sharing. I'll make sure she gets the answers to you guys after the broadcast. That's worst case. We're going to stick around for a minute, see if we can get her back completely solidly, no screen sharing, and diving with Q&A that way. And apologies for the trouble if it's your first time. This does not happen very often. So there you are. Hilariously unique. Abby, let's see if we've got her back. Nope, gone again entirely. Kids, we're going to wait for her to come back one more time. Thank you for your patience. Welcome in Miss Houston's class and Fredonia as well. We've got all over the country today. This is very exciting. I'm in Newfoundland. Abby's in California. One of our classes in California. So I'm actually closer to Morocco than I am to Abby right now, which is pretty wild being in the same continent. So it's a big place. Give it a few quick seconds. A quick note too, Abby has done a program with us in the past. So there are other questions that she's answered in the past on one of our YouTube channel programs. If you type in her name, you can easily see some there. And worst case, if we don't get her back, I will get all our classes. Email me your questions. We're at ebtsoyp@gmail.com. We'll get them to her and make sure we get you those answers on anything you might want to know about being an underwater explorer. Quick final note as well, that everything that we've done in the last week, we had a guy who rowed across the Pacific Ocean. We've had people who've been to the bottom of every single ocean. We've had live penguins, live turtles, and more. So it's been a really, really exciting sort of wrap up to the season for us at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants with a whole bevy of incredible ocean programs. Folks, I'm going to give it a few more seconds. Ms. Barras, 233 class, thank you so much for sticking around too. And Abby's back, and I think hello. Classes, thank you for your patience. Abby, we're not going to say the joke. I think it's actually destroying the internet. Done forever. We might have frozen again. Oh no. Hear no evil. We can't even speak of the joke. Classes, what I'm going to do, because Abby's internet's having a real trouble right now, is unfortunately, I am going to wrap us up there. So I will note, please do send us your questions. If you are signed up for any of our last few programs in the year, we've got 5 more after this, including live in the Lemur Forest in North Carolina, live with turtles at the Turtle Hospital in Florida. We've got live in Olympian this Friday. I'm doing a program on Wednesday talking about Kilimanjaro in Wild Africa. So it's going to be a really exciting wrap up to the school season. I really apologize that the internet failed in halfway. I'm not sure what's going on, but thank you for your patience. Mr. Ross, 233 class, thank you guys for sticking around. All of you for your trouble. email us